All right. Howdy, folks. Hope this is coming through all right. Um, since this is the first stream I've done in quite a while, um, I fully expect there to be some technical issues. As I also didn't really tell too many people that I was doing this, so it'll be interesting to see if anyone hops in here. But if you didn't catch the live of this, you can always watch it later. But yeah, I don't know if, for some context, it's been a while. I'm trying to remember the last time I did this. It was probably, I want to say 2023, 24, something like that. It's been a few years. And I've been continuing to create art, both professionally and personally. But I kind of drifted away from a lot of the social media stuff. I ditched the Instagram. That just wasn't, I didn't find that particularly useful in my day to day. And I kind of stopped creating things on my YouTube channel here. So, and I didn't, I was just kind of, needed to focus more on my day to day and what I was doing, instead of kind of trying to chase the social media presence so much. But I do miss doing these streams. I miss the videos were definitely a bit more work, but somebody actually commented on my on a piece I uploaded to ArtStation recently, and mentioned that they would like to see the live streams again. And it's been on my mind for a while. And so, yeah, I thought I'd hop in here and just, I can use this as a time to, chat with people or catch up, or just, I'm just going to be drawing basically for a while. And I figured I could at least use this as time to work on some stuff. And if people want to tune in and follow along, or jump in the chat, or just draw along with me on their own devices and so forth, or sketch pads or whatever, they're welcome to do that. So, yeah, let's see. I think I'm just going to hop right in here. I just wanted to do some sketching today, and I've actually been spending some time working on some on kind of a personal world building project, I guess. And a lot of that involves a lot of creature designs and stuff like that. So I've been kind of drawing a lot of that stuff, and I think that's how I'm going to use my time here. I was kind of looking back at some of my older reference boards as well for some other projects I did over the summer. So I've got some of those on my other screen here, just for your information. I have some cool nature and fantasy stuff on here. I've got another one that I used to, actually, this is what I used for this orc concept project. And I have another board that I'm using for, or I was using for a sci-fi project. So it's this one here. I had some human references on there too, but definitely like a lot of naturalistic stuff, as well as some machine things. So I'm just kind of keeping these up on the side here for reference. This was the what I was using these references for. Both of these were for a course I took at Noman over the summer. I really enjoyed that. Actually, I really recommend that. I was actually taking a few courses at once while I was also working. For those of you who haven't been following what I've been doing, I've been working as a an art lead for Unchained Entertainment for the past few years, and started out as concept artist. Started doing some 3D stuff as well, and um, and then sort of shifted into some kind of production and art direction, which is part of what I'm responsible for now. So that's been, a lot of my focus. In recent years, I haven't been doing so many freelance projects or teaching or that kind of thing, or, as I mentioned, any of this social media stuff. But yeah, I think recently I've just been feeling like I really want to shift back to more kind of personal work and more just sort of, uh, making art, which I think has been a little bit less of what I've been doing professionally recently. And so even though, I mean, I'm still, that's still my job, but it's just more. It's. I think when you are making a living doing art, you're not always going to be working on the things that inspire you or that you're passionate about. That's just kind of a given, whether you're doing freelance work or studio work. Um, and yeah, I think it's important to keep one foot in um, the things um, that sort of brought me into this world in the first place. The things that inspired me as a kid and or inspire me now. Really strong storytelling and world building and fantasy and just cool creatures and dinosaurs and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've got a lot of that on my ref boards over here. Um, Especially love all these guys. And the other thing too is recently I've just been really drawn to I don't know, I guess not outright horror, but also kind of just like weird, creepy um like body horror stuff, which is I know is not like historically uh my what I've been creating on these streams. But I like I said, it's been a while, and I'm discovering more about what is interesting and compelling to me, and maybe focusing less on um, what maybe is expected of me, or what that I kind of fell into, um, and just yeah, just kind of exploring like what I really enjoy from other media that I'm consuming. And yeah, for whatever reason, I'm just really drawn to that stuff. I was also exploring a lot of those things in some of those classes I was taking over the summer. Some and like I don't even know what the YouTube guidelines are right now, so I'm kind of almost hesitant to like get too deep into that creepy horror kind of stuff because I don't know if they're just gonna shut down my channel. But you can always check it out on my portfolio. It's it's nothing that crazy, but just kind of like really creepy, creatures and characters and stuff that I find, for whatever reason, I find really compelling to create. And the funny thing is, I'm not even, I don't know. I enjoy kind of creating them more than I do like consuming them in media. Like I don't really like horror movies or anything like that. Um, Generally, I prefer like media that aren't kind of explicitly one thing or another, that kind of incorporate elements of different genres when they feel appropriate, so like I don't necessarily like horror movies, but I do enjoy when a movie incorporates horror elements in kind of a novel and unexpected way, and in a way that sort of makes sense within the story. And I feel that way about a lot of games too. I was playing through a lot of the Resident Evil games over the last year, and some of them some of them just kind of push it too far for me, where I'm just like, this is just stressful. I don't even really enjoy this. This is like just too much adrenaline. But I do really enjoy a lot of the creature and kind of like messed up sort of humanoid designs that they have in there. So I just started making more of that stuff, and I don't know, it's really really satisfying, especially things that are just like wrinkly and gross, or like I don't know, old people, or like people with, or like strange body deformations, or like kind of pseudo humanoid forms but not quite humanoid. So, and as I'm talking, I'm just starting to like sketch some abstract sort of organic forms here, but we'll see if it coalesces into something here. I think just because like I said, I haven't done this in a while, so I haven't gotten used to talking and drawing at the same time. So I think generally if I'm talking, I'm creating something more kind of abstract and doodly, which like I have absolutely no idea what this is supposed to be at this point. But I think that will become clear, or it won't. I don't know. Yeah, I've been doing more, a little bit more stuff in my sketchbook. I've been trying to go. There's a nice figure drawing group around here that I've been trying to go to, mostly on the weekends. That's been really nice. If you I don't know, if you draw or if you don't, I really encourage you to if you know of a place that does that around where you are, to go to a figure drawing session. I don't know, it's really it's been really nice. It's a nice way to connect with people, you know, and also to kind of like really stay focused during that time, which is, focus and attention are sort of the new hot commodity, and retaining focus and attention is of course harder than ever. Um, which is why, if people are tuning into these streams, or watching my videos, I commend you for that, because I tend to create. I don't know. I've stopped really trying to cater to the shorter attention spans. I don't really want to do that. I prefer long form content anyway. And God, my buddy sent me an Instagram video the other day, like a reel of something, because we're always trying to find games that we can play together, or like board games or like video games or something. He sent me this video of a game. He said, "Oh, wouldn't this be so cool to play like this game?" He sends me this video, and I couldn't even understand. I couldn't even understand what the game was or how it worked, because it was just like cut, 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 and just like voice over everything. I'm like, Jesus, I can't even. He's like, "Doesn't it look cool?" I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea if it looks cool, because I couldn't process any of that information fast enough to understand what the hell it was. Um, and I don't know if it's just because I've been off social media for so long. I mean, I know it's gotten worse like that, but that was just like, man, isn't the point to try to convey information somehow? And if you like, it was just so fast and overwhelming that I couldn't even really understand what it was trying to communicate. So I probably wasn't, the target audience, because I know some people now just kind of prefer that kind of stimulation, but maybe they don't prefer it. It's just what they've become accustomed to. But anyway, my point being, I actually was I just kind of like hopped back in my YouTube studio a little while ago as well too, because like I said, somebody left a comment on my art station and asking about the live streams, and I was like, hi, like I wonder what's going on with my YouTube channel. And I just kind of popped in there, and people are still watching the videos, even though I haven't created anything in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Um, and I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised at that. That people were still watching a lot of those tutorials and even the live streams from like, and not even the ones that I would expect necessarily, not even ones that I consider to be particularly good um, or I don't know. It was just interesting, and it was kind of inspiring to me to see that and think, I don't know. I just kind of miss connecting with people in that way, even in a kind of indirect way like that. It's yeah, I don't know. It's nice. So I would like to do this more and um, maybe also try to get the word out. Um, so people actually know that I'm doing this and they actually want to come check it out. Um, and by the way, I've been seeing a couple of people trickle in and out. If you're watching, hello. Give me a shout in the comments just to let me know. Say hi and let me know if my audio and video are coming through okay. I think they are, but I just want to make sure that I'm not just talking to my computer right now. So this is starting to form into some kind of creature here. I think there's an eye at least. So, but I'm starting to feel like this is almost a little too abstract at this point to steer it into something tangible, but I don't know. We'll see. Let's try. So we have this eye. And what else? Starting to get some kind of nose thing here. And really been drawn to faces recently, and especially like just really weird faces. Give it like a little bit more of an expression. Oh, now he's sad. Well, that's fine. I used to put on music during these streams, and then I got a request to leave it out so people could actually put on their own music. Excuse me, music while they're watching. So yeah, if you're tuning in, feel free to put on the whatever your usual soundtrack is, and feel free to draw along with me as well. I think from what people were telling me, this was as much a work time for them, for some people, as it is for, or not even work necessarily, just kind of drawing and art making time, as it is for me. Or you can just put it on your iPad and cook up some breakfast. I guess for most people, probably are on more East Coast or European time zones. I don't know how many people are. I'm in Pacific these days. I'm in Los Angeles. So it is still morning here. I think this was a nice warm up, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. This is just a little bit too, like stream of consciousness dream state kind of. So I'm just gonna put you over here. And let's start fresh. I think now that I'm warmed up, let's do something a little bit more closer to my objective. Let me pull up my references here. Let's see. Not really. I want to do something kind of organic. And let's see here. Something. Lizards. Creepy faces. Armor. Yeah. These are cool. All right, I'm just going to put this up here. And yeah, let's see. Let's create some kind of thing. Let's start with, let's do a bit of a sketch here. Let's do a bit of an outline first so I know where I'm going with this. I'm gonna do some kind of Lobster man, I think, just because those are all up on my references. So I'm gonna knock down the opacity even lower. Let's just do like a basic kind of block out here. And what do lobster heads look like? Just, you know, I'll just pop this in the corner so you can see what I'm looking at. I apologize to any viewers who are crustacean or this guy's funny. Crustacean or arachnid averse, but I love these guys. I do want to make it kind of more. Let me put this on. No, I always miss. Actually, this is funny. Back. Can I quit, please? Really not giving me an option here. Okay. Back. All right, I'm just gonna put this off screen. Clip Studio Paint. I love you, but you are not making this easy for me. I'm gonna have to force quit. That's funny because I was just gonna say I've been meaning to transition to Clip Studio Paint. Oh, hello, we got a comment here. Hello. Hey, Evan, sounds good. Great to see you back again. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Glad it's coming through. Yeah, I would like to do more live streams. I don't plan on, making more video content at this point, but I think this is just a really, quick and easy way to get in and share some stuff with you guys, and it's a good excuse for me to work on some things. So yes, I would like to do this more. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to try to get into my my weekly Sunday cadence quite yet, but we'll see. I mean, this is generally a good time for me. Seemed like in the past this was a good time for other people. But yeah, nice to see you in the chat, and yeah, just gonna trail off because I'm trying to figure out this lobster guy. It kind of reminds me of what was that movie? Oh, just District 9. Those were kind of like lobster people. lobster aliens. But anyway, I'm getting too focused on the head here. Let's kind of go into the rest of the body. Get a nice, just general silhouette going. I want to have like those areas of segmentation. Smooth this. I love how this guy's just up in the corner watching us. He really creeps me out, actually. I don't know. I guess that was kind of the point, but it wasn't really. I didn't have any specific intention. That's just what my mind came up with no input. But or no real plan. But this guy I'm gonna try to have a bit more structure to it. Try to lay out the forms a little better. Kind of feeling like giving him these big kind of feet, kind of thick legs. And actually, I like having some asymmetry, so I'm gonna make this arm piece really big. And the other one will be kind of normal sized. It's nice to have a bit of a framework to start with. Otherwise, I just, go off into weird abstract territory here. And usually I have a bit more of an intent, behind these things before I start. Obviously for any work that I'm doing, there's some kind of specific goal or objective. Especially for games, there's really usually pretty strict limitations, which is, again, part of the reason why I'm feeling the need to explore some more freeform kind of personal stuff here. But I'm liking this idea so far. Can't say this is something I've got some kind of floating thing here. Can't say this is an idea that I've ever really fully explored or committed to in the past. Actually, I think what a lot of these refs were from was this one, which was inspired by crustaceans and lobster forms, but sort of through the lens of something mechanical, which was a really cool thing to explore. But here I want to go full organic. It just tends to require a little bit less, planning and referencing, which when I'm doing the live streams, it's a bit harder to be kind of more planned and deliberate, because I am trying to talk through it, and trying to create something that's I don't know, fun to watch here. Let's go back to 10% opacity. By the way, I mean, for those of you who are interested in the technique side of things, generally what I do tends to not be super technical. Try to keep things simple, at least with 2D. I've been getting into a lot more 3D, and that can get quite technical sometimes. But um, what I'm doing is basically have this brush. This is like the only brush I ever use, and I'm gonna give Hardy Fowler a shout out a couple times in this video in this technique because this is actually a modification of one of his brushes, which is just a really simple. It's just a diamond, and it has no no transfer. I don't really use transfer for any of my brushes anymore. Actually, I prefer not to. But it does have shape dynamics based on pen pressure. So, you know, if I apply more pressure, it's thicker or thinner. And then to control the opacity, I'm actually using my number keys above on the top of the keyboard, 1 through 10. So if I hit 1, you know, I have 10% opacity. If I hit 6, I have 60% opacity. And you can also set flow the same way with shift. So I do shift 4, that's 40% flow, shift 10, 10% flow. It's a little bit, actually I like that. A little bit softer, a little bit more organic. And I have a little bit of texture on there. I have, what is this? Some kind of texture, just to give it a little bit of grain and grit. So this is like my basic sketching. I even use this for painting. I use it for like 90% of what I'm doing, which is probably too much. This one, and I made a few. This set here is just kind of my my basic kit. Nothing really complicated. I made this paintbrush too, which I really enjoy. It's just kind of a flat thing, has a little bit of color dynamics on it. I'm not doing any color yet, but it's a mix brush, so it is mixing with what I'm putting down. But has a little bit of color dynamics, which I try to keep in most of my brushes just to keep things a little bit more lively. And it just has this nice flat angle to it, which I find just to be very, very versatile. This is funny. This is actually, maybe I'll get into some painting in the stream because these are actually kind of appropriate colors for a lobster man, but you know, we'll get back to that. I'm just going to keep it simple for now. Back to our sketching. So yeah, I'm just starting at like very, let's go back to my black, very low opacity, like 10%. And then with every stroke, I'm just kind of building it up a little bit. So I'm using pressure to thicken and thin it, but if I want something darker, I just hit, you know, up the opacity a little bit. So it's not exactly like sketching with a pencil. I actually do have a nice pencil brush here too, which does have transfer on it, pressure sensitivity. And I don't know. I'll switch between them. I might use one or the other. Kind of depends on my mood. I'll try this one for a little bit since it's a little bit more organic, and I have been doing more more traditional sketching in my sketchbook recently. So this might be a little bit more appropriate, a little better for value control. But I'm getting too locked into this corner here, so let's make sure that we have some other. So I want to have these like segments of the exoskeleton, but then in between, I want to have something. And I'm thinking like mostly, where did my references go? I thought I put you up here. Shift A, always on top. I think like with some of these crustaceans, you can't even really see a lot of the in-between parts. But I just know from like, you know, if you're eating a lobster, these in-between places, they're not fleshy necessarily. They're just kind of like, I don't know, a little bit softer. But I think to do something a little bit more interesting here, I want to have like some kind of human fleshy bits between these segments. So I want to have these hard segments, and then in between, I just want to have like some kind of soft, loose skin, which is a horrible thing to say out loud. but it's the truth. So yeah, let's keep on going here. And I also like, having kind of a having spent some time with more anatomy stuff recently. It's fun to try to also like kind of map the segments to what muscles or bones might be doing in that area. Like for this rib cage area, not creating an actual rib cage, but just kind of creating segments that allude to it, or not even the rib cage necessarily. It can be the those muscles that connect between your lats and your rib cage. I can never remember what those are called. There's kind of this set of muscles that follow the rib cage a little bit, but they can be very pronounced in. I wonder if I don't have my examples there anymore, but actually, let's see if I can bring that guy up again. So I want to see if I did that for this guy. This guy. Yeah, you can kind of see them under the I really liked how I don't know. There's some things a little bit off about how this bicep is working here, but this was when I first started like really being conscious of how skin is working over the, I feel like when you first start to learn anatomy, you really just focus on like muscles and to a lesser extent bones. And this is when I really started paying more attention to like, how this skin is interacting over that area, which can really kind of elevate the realism of something. And this will be a little different because the skin is kind of under the exoskeleton, but there might be some opportunities to explore that here. So let's give him some kind of claw. Maybe just like a 2. It's funny. This is absolutely not what I expected to be making, but I'm really enjoying this idea. And I'm a big fan of like small, round, beady eyes, and crustaceans and insects really tend to have those kinds of features. There's my other rough board. Let's see. Did I lose it? Oh, it's underneath. Yeah, if you are joining, welcome. And maybe some people from the Discord group hopped in because that was pretty much the only place that I mentioned I was doing this. So I appreciate you joining, and feel free to say hi in the chat. Yeah, let me know how your Sunday's going. All right. I keep losing that because I got to do always on top. There we go. Back to it. Back to Crustacean Man. I'm seeing some of these like rounded shapes. That'd be a nice opportunity to kind of mix up the spiky elements. So I'm gonna throw some of those in there. And always, everywhere I'm going, I am I tend to do this reflexively now, but it's taken a lot of practice. I'm always looking for variety, shape variety, line variety, big, medium, small. Honestly, if I were to distill all of my art advice into one statement or one principle, that would be it. Is big, medium, small. I don't know. It's like I can never emphasize it enough. When I'm doing reviews of other people's work, whether it's 3D or 2D, you know, if it's a model for the game or concept for anything, or even like even the structure of an environment itself. If you know, you're creating a, um, you know, you're set dressing an area in a game or whatever. I feel like the thing that is always going to have the highest impact for improving something is um, mixing up your shape distribution, and looking for opportunities to create dynamics between those shapes and pushing that dynamic. Like instead of, you know, big, medium, small, which is like on its own, that's going to do so much work for you. Even if you just have these three sizes to work with, if you are using that effectively, but pushing it even further, you know, really like going to extremes with this and just find not even you know, in your overall structure certainly, but just in every single, and that's the tough part, is learning to incorporate that into every single line and every single design choice you make, not just the overall shape and form and everything. And I'm not saying I'm a master at this. You know, I don't always hit that mark, but it is something I consistently find is it's just like remarkable how effective that is. And I guess it's kind of just a shorthand for shape variety and I don't know, creating a dynamic visual space, which tends to make really appealing looking things. But it is funny that you know, it's not the way we tend to construct our world, and it's not even the way most people tend to create things or organize their lives. You know, if you look at our you know, layout for a city, you know, we're dealing with a lot of this kind of stuff. If this was like a topographical view, this is a terrible example, but you know, we lay stuff out like that, or even, you know, I don't know, we just tend to forget that it is kind of a shorthand for how nature tends to work. Although the funny thing is, not all nature tends to do that. And sometimes I'll be like looking at a picture of something from nature, and I'll be like, "That's bad design," you know, which is absurd. I bet we could find something in some of these that's like, but like in general, you know, like you look at the segments on this bug, and yeah, you kind of have three big shapes and like, but then you have all these small ones down here. You know, it's never super consistent, and I don't know, it's just something you find. And like the way, like especially this, like look at the way the skin pattern is broken up here. Like there is no consistency in these shapes at all. You have this really big one, kind of scales down a little bit. It changes form, transitions. It changes to a completely different pattern over here. But even within this pattern, there isn't consistency. Some of them have these little bits around them. Some of them don't. This is pretty consistent, but I don't know. It's just when you look at the size of the different spikes here, it's really pretty pervasive in all natural designs. So this is cool. I like this. Maybe I'll pull some reptilian elements in here. Who knows? But yeah, I was also expecting with this stream not to focus too much on one thing. But I'm starting to feel like this is something I want to work on for a while. So yeah, you know, I'm just going with it. Lobster man. Another thing you can do when you're sketching, um, which is a really nice way to create kind of shorthand for depth, um, is to use kind of lighter values or lower opacity for the even with something like a character that like in a landscape, you have distant objects tend to be a little bit lighter, low contrast. But even if you're just sketching a character or something, um, even here, like I could reduce the. I mean, it's a little bit different because it's a shadow area, but just because it's further back, we can use kind of lower contrast in this area, and then as we come forward, we kind of darken our darks, lighten our lights. Of course, all our lights are already at their maximum lightness because we're drawing. Actually, they're not. We're drawing on a gray background, as I tend to do. Just the white tends to be a little bit too intense. And if we want to go back and add some highlights, we can easily do that. My layer, there we go. I really like working on toned paper for that reason. If you like to draw and you haven't tried it, I would really recommend getting some toned paper and then getting a white pencil that you can use to some examples in my sketchbook, but probably wouldn't be able to see them very well. But I'll just show you quickly what I mean here on a different layer here. But you can use brighter tones to accentuate some of your highlights, stuff like this. Can really elevate a drawing, even if you do it very sparingly. In fact, the best way to do it is probably very sparingly, But this is kind of pushed it into a little bit of like, gives a little bit of reflectivity. I don't recommend like doing an entire shaded light side because that kind of defeats the point. But just some little spots here and there can really push the depth of the image. I'm going very slow here, but I think that's fine. I'm often, trying to hit, I don't know. It's different when you are trying to be economical or hit a deadline or something. And by the way, this is my eraser. It's just kind of a soft brush, also set to very low opacity. So when I'm erasing, it's pretty close to just like an organic eraser, but I'm not doing anything particularly fancy here. I'm just, pencil brush and eraser. Sometimes I'll knock the eraser up to full opacity if I really want to get rid of something, but I do try to. One of the great things about working in traditional pencil is it forces you to think a little bit more before you put a stroke down, and it forces you to kind of be a little bit more deliberate. And that's something that the digital medium doesn't really. I mean, you can set restrictions on yourself in terms of erasing things and stuff, but it's really easy to get in the trap, get stuck in the trap of just constantly kind of reworking things because you have that capacity, you have that ability, and that's not always. It's not always beneficial to the final product. I'm gonna go ahead and flip here. Check my proportions. I think this distant shoulder could use a bit of a. I'm gonna use liquify. It tends to work a little bit better for this specific application. Show backdrop. This guy's still up in the corner watching. Man, well, so yeah, I was actually, I kind of digressed, but I was talking about switching to Clip Studio because, Adobe sucks. We all know that. But also, just because of their company and corporate practices, but also because they have not been focusing on making tools for artists for a very long time. Even before like, the AI shit. Just some of these basic quality of life things that are so obvious to anyone who has spent time drawing in the software have just remained completely unchanged for years and years. There's so many elements to Photoshop that would make creating art so much easier if they just tweaked one thing. Like their liquify tool that I was just using. That's why I thought of it. It's just because just the you either have to show the backdrop, which is every layer, or you show no backdrop, or you create another layer underneath it and then you manually select the layer. If you show backdrop, it's going to show you the drawing that exists, so you get duplicate. It's just terrible. The whole system is terrible. It's not artist friendly or user friendly at all, and it's been that way since since Photoshop 7. I'm pretty sure that tool has been completely unchanged. And I don't know, other stuff. Their mirror tool, which is like something I use all the time. It's just really janky. It's like it kind of works sometimes. You set it up here, but then sometimes it'll stick, so you can't move it. And then if you try to do transform, yeah, sometimes it transforms your layer, but if you work on it for a while, then sometimes it transforms the symmetry, so you have to turn it off manually and then go back in and then it's just bad. And what was the other thing with the symmetry? Oh yeah, I don't know. There's just like a lot of things that you can't do symmetrically, transforms and just like and these are all things that Clip Studio has fixed. In my limited time working with it, and I know there's Krita as well, which I haven't tried personally, but I've heard good things about it. It's free, and I've heard very user friendly. But and also Clip Studio is like a one-time license. You pay for it. You get to. I'm not obviously not sponsored by either of them or anybody. But it's just my experience. I really want to transition over to it. I just have to spend the time getting used to the layout and the shortcuts and all that kind of stuff. Which is. I actually recently watched Tyler Edlin's video on this. Which, if you haven't checked him out, Tyler Edlin on YouTube, and he has his own art academy classes, courses, mentorship stuff. Really check him out. Great stuff, great videos. Anyway, he had one where he was talking about Clip Studio, and the biggest problem being like if you've been an artist, professional or otherwise, working in the same software for 10, 20 years, it's just really hard to teach an old dog new tricks, as he put it. But I will say I have been learning tons of other new software, and it's actually kind of fun. It keeps you on your toes a little bit, mostly on the 3D side of things. So I don't see why I couldn't do the same with 2D. I just would really need to. I think every time I think of using it, it's just when I already need to be working on something else, and I need to spend time learning it when I'm not actually trying to create anything important. Just spending time learning the tools. But yeah, as far as I know, there's nothing in my workflow specific. Maybe like the filters, maybe the layer styles. I'm not sure if they have that kind of stuff that can be useful. I mean, I probably wouldn't stop using Photoshop entirely, but if I had to, it would be nice to do to at least do most of my artwork in a program that is actually designed for artists, and not, well, whatever. I guess Photoshop has always been kind of geared more towards graphic design and photography, so that's not entirely new. But now they're just all in on AI and just constantly trying to shove those tools down our throats. Every time I get an update, they're like, "Hey, new generative feature," and let me tell you, Adobe, I'm not interested. just want to draw. So I'm seeing an opportunity here. In my overall proportions, I'm looking at everything here and looking. This is kind of my hip region, and this is my head region. This is my foot region, and these are all pretty much the same distance, and that's kind of boring. So let's jump back into Liquify, this terrible Liquify tool, and this checkered pattern that makes my eyes bleed. And I'm just going to nudge this up, create a bit more of a dynamic proportions. Doesn't have to be too much, but now we have a little bit more on our legs, which is just more exciting that way, you know? I still haven't really done much with this arm. His pose is pretty basic, but I'm not worried about it. This is more to design the character itself. And it could be argued that this kind of stoic, mechanical kind of pose is appropriate for a lobster man of his stature. I don't know what I'm saying. But and I should well, whatever. If we just get to drawing today, that's fine. We could do painting another time. I'm not really. I keep thinking like, man, I gotta hurry up, but it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's nice to give him an extra eye just to really increase the weird factor, the alien factor. And notice I'm zooming in just for that specific function, but I'm also not. I'm keeping everything at the same zoom level for all of this process, and that's something that again, I don't really know. You know, people who are tuning in. From what I recall, it was pretty evenly split between people who want to learn how to make art and people who just enjoy watching the stream. So I try to, you know, include a little bit for both people. But you know, as things come up, if you're interested in the technique and stuff, yeah, if you are actually, if you're an artist or just like drawing or interested in learning about the process, please drop any questions or anything in the chat. Like I said, I'm not doing like so many tutorials anymore, and I haven't been doing any one-on-one lessons or anything. Not saying I won't in the future. That might be something I start doing again. Of course, if that's something that you would be interested in, feel free to reach out and let me know. I don't think I included any links in this stream, but there is a Discord channel that honest I feel bad for the people that have joined that over the past couple of years, because I've really been doing nothing with it, and I appreciate the people that are kind of still trying to keep that alive, mostly just like dropping silly memes in there, you know, so I'm seeing those if you're one of those people. But you can find me on Discord, you can find me on ArtStation, you can send me, I think you can leave a comment here, or just, I don't know, reach out. Let me know if you have any questions, you know, any topics you'd like to hear about. You know, if you're interested in getting into art or getting into the game industry, you know, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about you know, my experience with that, about you know, what it's like to be professional in the industry right now, which is, you know, that's a whole can of worms. And you know, obviously it's kind of shit times for everyone. who is trying to find work, but especially in entertainment and art and creative stuff, it's been crazy. It's been a tough time. And I am really fortunate to still be employed. Um, I know a lot of other people are not, or are looking for work and uh, are not having success with that. Um, so I don't know. I can't say, like, I think I'm in a bit of a strange situation, which I can't speak too much about, but I can at least share a little bit more about my experience, and or just, yeah, if you're looking for art tips or drawing tips, or you just want to shoot the shit, um, that's what we're here for. Yeah, or if you don't want to think about all that stuff, like, um, I'll be honest. Um, you know, like I said, I was kind of, I went dark for a few years, on social media, here on YouTube, uh, and um, deleted my Instagram account. Still on LinkedIn. It's kind of its own set of problems, um, but really just, and it's not like, yes, I was trying to kind of refocus and focus more on my job, and I didn't necessarily need to be posting a lot of social media stuff because I wasn't doing as much freelance work, and so I didn't feel as much pressure to be, and I was kind of tapering down on the mentorship stuff. Um, but honestly, like, a lot of that was just, um, I really was not in a good place, mentally, and just like really struggling to deal with all the changes that were happening in the world and with art, and I really, I hate to even bring it up, but with AI and all that kind of stuff, there was a long time where I really just couldn't even talk about it. Even now, just like, I'm hesitant to even go into it, just because, like, so many people are probably in similar positions as I was for a long time, where it's just so sensitized to it, and like to the point where, I was just like, look, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to. I still don't watch the news. I still don't listen to any news. And I'm fine with that. I get all my news from people who insist upon telling me about it, and I like hearing it from them better, because it gives us a chance to kind of, I don't know. It's better to hear it from a friend than from the cold vacuum of the internet, I guess. And if something big enough is happening, I will usually hear about it. Um, and yeah, no, they're not always the most reliable source of information. But then again, neither is anything else at this point. So, I don't know. You may disagree. That's fine. But it's to me, it's kind of like, I don't even know. I don't even know what information is anymore. Uh, I'm just trying to focus on. Anyway, that's part of all this. Like, I had to completely, um I had to completely like shut it all down. I just like hit the kill switch on everything. I was like, nope, no more social media. I don't want to hear about any of this stuff. Um, I just need to focus on my day to day. I just need to take care of myself. I need to focus on my own creative projects, because um, that's what sustains me, and that's what makes life um, bearable sometimes. Not that it always does. It's not like a, um, it's still, um, but I think my point being, that yeah, I just had to kind of shut it all out, and I completely, um, I think I have recently just been getting better at um I think for a while I just felt like everything was hopeless, and that was a constant. It's just like, it's hopeless, everything's hopeless. There is no future. There's no art is dead. Creativity is dead. Humanity is dead. All this kind of stuff. And I I know a lot of people are also feeling that way or have been feeling that way. And I think I've just been becoming more acquainted with the idea of like yeah, maybe it's hopeless, but that's not really what matters. Um, it really doesn't, because at the end of the day, you know, I do this because I love it, and I assume if other people, no matter what it is, you know, whether it's what you do for work or um, people that choose to put their time and energy and resources into developing a craft, um, especially something like art or music or anything like that, where it's like it's never been a great idea to try uh, I mean, yeah, sure, to put your own time into it, sure, but to try to make a career out of that, I mean, that's um, and obviously in recent years that's only been exacerbated, right? Um, and so yeah, like I think in many ways it seems more hopeless than ever if that's what you're trying to do. Um, but I don't know. Maybe I think I'm discovering that it matters less and less for me, um because what matters is that I love it, and um and I want to spend as much time doing it as possible. And other people might have different priorities. Maybe other people, somebody, maybe you really want to make money so that you can pay for a house or pay for your child's college. Like that's a scary idea. I mean, I've personally made the choice to kind of accept a lot of things that I will not pursue in life, because this is so important to me. Being able to create and having the time and space to create, um, that I think it's a little bit, I like I said, I'm employed now. I have absolutely no, um, that could change at any time, any day. And there's a chance I might not be able to find another art job after that. And it's, I don't know, it's just a reality that I've come to terms with. And I think it just doesn't matter, I mean, so much to me anymore, because I know I'm going to find a way to do this. I know I'm going to find a way to keep doing this. And um whether it's, you know whether I have to find some other source of income or whatever, that's fine. I know I'm always going to do what I can to make time for this, because it's just so important to me. And creating is so important to me and valuable to me. And also, to play devil's advocate to myself, and to a lot of people, like, I think the public, as consumers, they feel similarly. And I think also that overall sentiment has changed a lot over the past few years. And initially it was just like the artists and creators that were like, we're being totally screwed over here and this looks hopeless. And how am I going to make a living? And everyone else is like, yeah, we don't really care, because this is fun and we just want to, um, and it's easy. But now we're realizing, not quite as fun and easy. And it's just, people love people love other people. It's so important to what we do. And people love also people who love something else. People who love people. I'm tying myself in knots here, but people enjoy seeing somebody um, and seeing the product of somebody who loves their craft and loves their work. And I think in general, well, there may be people who just want to have the quickest, easiest solution, or just want to mindlessly consume media, of course. And honestly, even if you're not just in one camp or the other, like it's tough because the whole world is, like I said, attention is our new commodity, the new most valuable commodity, and so it's really hard to keep your focus on the things that you love doing more so than ever. So I definitely sympathize with people who myself included, who still get caught up in just like the um, mindless consumption of media. But I think most people are smarter than that and have enough self-awareness to recognize that that's not it's not how they want to live life, and that's not what the kind of things that they enjoy consuming from a media standpoint. Anyway, I'm kind of pontificating here, and this is what happens when you guys just let me talk for an hour. So please hop in the comments and stop me, or provide your own take or view or anything, or questions or whatever. But if you don't, I'm just going to keep talking and drawing, which is what, really what we're here for. It's funny, I'm going very slow. This is so much slower than I usually approach things. And I'm like spending all this time. And I think it's because I'm talking too. It's good. It's helping me kind of slow down and really like, I don't know, I'm focusing on a lot more kind of minor shapes and little rhythms and micro fluctuations that maybe I typically wouldn't spend so much time doing. I'm also not spending as much time designing things that make sense. A lot of this is just kind of reflexive, so I'm not putting too much thought into like the design and function of everything, but I'm trying to kind of touch base on that here and there as I'm going to make sure that like this isn't our weird abstract. I'm sorry I'm hating on this guy so much. It was just a warm up, and it's actually funny. I'm using a lot of the same kind of rhythms here. This is just where my mind is going naturally for some reason. But I really want to delete him, but I'm gonna let him sit and observe, because not every creature was born beautiful. That's okay. He's trying his best. He's not even finished. I just kind of birthed him into existence, and I didn't give him a chance to really shine and thrive. So maybe maybe at the end we'll circle back on him and give him his chance to become something that I don't find weird and repulsive. But hey, I mean that's more telling about what my unconscious is doing when I'm not giving my drawings any thought. And I guess that's probably why, like I said, I've been drawn more to those like weird, creepy, horror, twisted like things. Is I don't know. I feel like I can relate to them more. I feel like, if I try to draw all these pretty on my I was gonna do like a brief tangent, try to draw like a pretty girl or something. I'm like, nope, I'm not even gonna, because that requires so much focus and care, and I just don't really want to do that. And that's the thing, it's just kind of like, it's boring. not, not to say I don't enjoy drawing like attractive, well proportioned people from time to time. It's a really fun challenge. It's just not like those characters are not. Um, I don't know. They don't resonate with me as much. I kind of want to grab. What I was maybe I'll try to show you from my sketchbook here. Um, I don't know if you'll be able to see. Let me grab it real quick. I can zoom up my screen here and show you. But I went to the in Hollywood here they have like movie screenings in this big outdoor theater in the Hollywood Cemetery, which is really cool and really fun. And I went and saw The Matrix. But before the movie started, I was drawing a lot of these how do I position this? A lot of these kind of creatures. I really like this round one in the corner. Let me try to focus here. But this guy too. The one on the left was kind of just like a warm up. It's kind of weird proportion, but I don't know, these like weird, like kind of blob people. Maybe I'll try to draw some more, maybe in the next stream, but I don't know. It's just been really it's been really compelling to me recently. But I like this lobster guy too. He's very crunchy, crumbly, kind of spiky. Yeah, and I want to get some of these like skin folds in here. Cause like, you want to introduce something. I mean, like besides the concept of, a lobster man, like that is probably enough on its own. But I also, if you're doing concept work, which is essentially what this is, you want to find ways to like introduce that other kind of 20% strange factor, or like mixing and matching different things that wouldn't normally be together. So like, yeah, lobsters have these exoskeletons, but wouldn't it be strange if underneath was just like human skin? And I think that's just a really cool idea. And you don't have to see too much of it, but it's enough to make you wonder a little bit more. It's enough to make you think about it and question it, like what is underneath here? Are these pieces grown from him? Did he just slap them on? I mean, they were probably grown. They look organic enough to be grown as part of the body, but like, is he a mammal? Is he crustacean? Is he somewhere in between? Like, crustaceans don't typically have skin, obviously. So I don't know. It's just kind of a fun way to mix things up a little bit. Let's flip it. Nice. So yeah, again, I'm kind of doing this naturally as I'm moving forward. You can also go back with like an eraser and do the same kind of thing. Like if you put the eraser on a really, say 10% opacity, you go back, you can kind of get a similar effect. But this is just a cool thing. I mean, I didn't invent this by any means. You look at any, sketches from great, especially like creature designers and character designers, they're doing this kind of stuff all the time. It's just like using values to communicate depth and distance, which is just generally so much more interesting and dynamic than just using the same line width or darkness for every piece. So yeah, I could go back with my eraser and lighten this up afterwards, but it's, why do anything twice? I'm just gonna do it as I go through. Just keep things really light. That's a good practice to just have that kind of restraint. I notice that as I draw, I tend to I tend to get darker and sketchier as I move on. So I might start a sketch very like kind of restrained and precise and careful, and then by the end I'm just like, you know, really hairy lines, really dark tones, especially if I'm sketching on paper with traditional pencil. Um, and so I've been trying to teach myself to kind of reel that in a little bit and not allow. I mean, it's fine. You can sketch loose, like if that's your intent. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think, you know, when you recognize that that's your impulse, and it doesn't serve what you're creating necessarily, um, I like to. Usually, I mean, I think usually it's just an indication that I'm kind of losing focus or I'm losing patience with what I'm doing, and I think that's more of the problem than like the fact that it's sketchy and loose or dark. So it's kind of just when I see that it's more of a reminder to me to like, hey, do you need a break? Do you need to work on something else? Um, do we need to stop and look at this for a while? Just kind of like learning to respect those impulses and those questions. Lobster man. I love this. I love how nobody asked for this either. Um, I think somebody asked for something kind of fantasy-esque, which this could be. It's not really it's not really specific to a genre of anything. This could be in a sci-fi, this could be like an alien, this could be like a creature in a fantasy world. It's not really genre specific. But it is not from our world. Of that we can be sure. I'm going to take a closer look at some of these crunchy bits. Let's find another. I'm kind of cross-referencing reptile and crustacean, which is another cool way to mash things up. Let's see what else we got here. I really want to get this face right. His eyes are kind of tucked in there, but let's see what we can do. And while we're talking about contrast and stuff like that and detail, of course, it's good to develop some contrast and detail around the face. So I'm going to take a brief moment to. This is really fun though. I really like this guy. What kind of mandible things are we dealing with here? I guess we could give him like antenna. I don't know. Feels a little bit on the nose. Um, a little bit maybe too far in the lobster direction. I don't want it to just be like Lobster Man. But let's not rule it out. We could still maybe do that. I do want to give him a little bit more. I like this like pointy head thing. I think I do want to emphasize that. And also to increase the human component, I want to give him a rounded cranium and maybe a little bit of a brow line here. So humans, especially me, because I got a big forehead, you have this kind of like spherical protrusion. It's very subtle right here. But trying to show a little of that to kind of like, give him a bit more intelligence. If you're drawing characters, a good way to make the character look smarter or dumber. Let's go into liquefy. is to reduce the size of the head above the eye line. So I'm actually going to adjust the eye line a little bit as well, just because they're a little bit out of balance. This left one is a little too high. This one needs to come up just a touch, I think. Maybe not. But yeah, if you want them to look kind of more intelligent, give them a lot more stuff above the eye line. You want them to look a little less so. Look at any of your favorite characters from, I don't know, Disney, or any of those games that use very very heavily stylized characters. The big tanky guys, the big dumb brutes, they tend to have like heads like this. Basically, they're like all jaw and nose and everything, and they tend to have a little tiny forehead. But for this guy, because he's already, based in non-human territory, I want to give him a little bit. I want to give him a little bit of a suggestion of intelligence, because that's everything else in this design is speaking to animal, except for the vaguely humanoid form here. So I don't know, just to give him a little bit more interest, I want to give him just a bit more of a human, some more human features, kind of ride that line. So if you encounter this guy, you're not sure if you are going to talk with him or just run away or fight him. Like, are you going to try to reason with this character? I don't know. It doesn't have a mouth, so maybe you wouldn't assume, or at least not like a human mouth, so you wouldn't assume it's capable of human speech. But if you look at the forehead, you might think, maybe it can at least understand my intentions, or maybe it does have language. It's just not a human language. Maybe it will understand my actions, or I don't know. We could give it ears too. That's another way we could push it into human territory. We could give it kind of human cheekbones. I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff we could do. I'm gonna give it kind of a nod to ears, but not really explicitly say. And of course, we do have this second set of eyes here. It is very subtle, but hello, welcome, Wurzel. Glad you made it, and that's fine. You can always rewatch the beginning later. I know a lot of people prefer to kind of get the recap later if they can't make the stream itself. So, yeah, glad to have you here. We are creating Lobster Man or something. Marcos, that's right. That's right. Welcome back. Yeah, it's been a minute, so I may not remember everyone's YouTube names. But let me get back into the rhythm here. I am trying to, yeah, I would like to keep doing this. Send on Sundays. So, keep an eye out. I think if I schedule a stream, people get a notification about it on YouTube. Honestly, I'm not sure how it works anymore. If you got a notification on YouTube, when I scheduled this on Thursday, Friday, let me know, because I don't know, I could probably look it up, but I'm just curious to know how things work. I know that the rules are constantly changing about a lot of this stuff, but or hop in the Discord. I'll drop a link in the description of this video. If I didn't already, I'll drop it in there later. So if you want to hop in the Discord channel, it's usually a good way to get in touch with me. But or to keep, because that's how I announced this stream. Um, maybe I'll throw something on LinkedIn next time. I don't know. Just feeling it out at this point. And oh, hello. I think that is Annie. Hi, nice to see you. Um, and I'm glad you like Lobster Man. I'm liking him too. Um, yeah. Got a lot of really spiny pokey bits, but I'd like to think he could be reasoned with, even if he doesn't speak English. Um, all right, I keep getting pulled into these small little bits. But I need to finish these legs. I always, every time I do feet, I'm like, ugh, I have to do feet. So boring. But no, we're gonna do something interesting with these feet. It's just I have to figure out how to make it all work. Um, I do want to have kind of a broad platform kind of thing. Maybe we'll do like three. We'll do three kind of big pieces. And let's see here. Just change the perspective a little bit. Have this one angled slightly differently so the feet are pointed outwardly slightly. And I don't know, it's a little bit contrived, but that's okay. I think it'll work. Oh, stiff. I'm getting old, guys. Man. My back has just been actually it's not too bad today. I think it's one of those things where like I got so used to just like powering through and working where like my back has kind of like molded into this stiff exoskeleton. Not unlike this gentleman here. Um and and so it was okay. It was just generally kind of stiff, and now I've started to try to like stretch it and actually like have a functional spine. And now and that's when it's starting to hurt. It doesn't want to move. So it's especially watching the movie last night. Um, which, by the way, Matrix still holds up. Awesome film. Uh, Super goofy sometimes, but it's got that awesome jank to it. That's yeah, it's just great time. But first of all, you have to get there at 6:30 or something, or that's when we got there, so you can get a good seat on the lawn, and and then the movie doesn't start till 9. So I was just sitting on the lawn. I didn't bring a chair or anything, which I guess is on me. But um, so sitting on the lawn for 2.5 hours before the movie even starts, and then the movie starts, and I'm like, my back is just killing me. I'm like trying to stretch and like adjust my positions and everything, and um, but I have faith that it will kick back. I don't think it is um, beyond saving at this point. I just need to be like persistent and diligent about like not just sitting in my chair all day, um, and continuing to do the stretches and physical therapy stuff that I've been doing. Yeah, yes, I did. As soon as as soon as I finished the movie, I was practicing in the parking lot trying to do that move. Can't do it right now because of the chair, but you know, I can for sure dodge bullets. Um, no, I've hurt my back just by abusing it for years and years, sitting at a desk, hunched over my creations like a some kind of shrimp. So with a lot of very apt analogies for the content I'm creating today. Maybe that's why this came to me. Is this is how I'm kind of feeling internally? Is like I'm a shrimp or a crustacean or something. But anyway, yeah, just doing that, not moving enough, not. I gotta do more. Gotta do my stretches. Gotta get back into yoga. Cause like otherwise I'm screwed. Um, this it's really not good for you. I do have a standing desk. This thing is a standing desk. Um, that helps, but sometimes I just forget to use it. I'm just sitting for weeks and weeks. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I can do that. I even got like a little miniature treadmill to put under my desk while I'm working, so I can get like some steps in um, while I'm working, which actually worked better than you would expect. I was even able to kind of draw with it, or at least I was able to do like computer work, like typing and in the chat and like administrative stuff while I was walking. But drawing was a little bit tougher. Um, but I don't really use it much anymore. It's just better to just like go outside and walk around and not try to like and not just try to power through and keep working and just take more breaks. I mean, I think that's just what it comes down to. Um, but the trouble is when I'm really doing my best work, it's when I'm in like a long flow state, which could be an hour or two, and that's when I really actually forget to move. Um, and I don't want to move because I'm like, I got to keep this going. I don't know how long this is gonna last. Which is, I don't know, it's a silly thought, um, but yeah, it's harder to work in small increments. It takes a while for me to settle into the groove of things and to get, into the right focus mindset. So, um, but it's really not good to be sitting for more than, I don't know what the recommendations are now, but I'm definitely not following them. Maybe for the next stream, I will do it standing. I don't know. So, feet can be interesting. That's my point here. I'm still finding it a little bit. I feel like this main section here, I'm not really. I feel like this wants to be 2 segments or something. I don't know. Maybe like that. Could work. Let's try it. And then maybe the internal one has a few. Again, just to return to my earlier point, the reason this isn't quite feeling right to me, this shape, just gonna break it down real quick, is we have something kind of like this. And that's a super boring shape. It's very symmetrical. We basically have 2 masses that are evenly distributed, more or less. I mean, there's some interesting stuff going on the micro scale, but on the overall shape. So we divide it up, have one shape overlap. So one shape is now taking a dominant position. I don't know why that sounds bad, but that's what it is in design terms. It's a dominant shape. And yes, we could keep this the way it is, but to even further break this up and separate it, I'm going to break this into a medium and small, or maybe a medium and a few small, kind of a segmented thing. So kind of reversed this decision a little bit, but so now just like a bit more of a, I don't know, interesting dynamic. It's asymmetrical too, which is a little bit more interesting. And all right, so now we have some room, some room for. By the way, I'm 30, 31, I think. Honestly, I swear to God, yesterday I could not remember if I was 30 or 31. I think I'm 31. Be 32 in August. But anyway, my point being, almost 32, and my voice is still cracking all the time, which you know, just still developing, guys. I'm still waiting to hit puberty, and it will be a glorious time. All right. I'm not. I think. I think the reason still isn't working is because it's a forward. I want it to be a forward-facing plate, and it's just the fact that it's divided in the middle just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think I need to have it be whole in the middle, and then maybe we'll see on this side it's kind of divided along the back or along the side like this. I don't know. Guys, I'm a little bit stumped here. But I guess I'm just going to keep going. And maybe it will. I think I'm overthinking it. I think that's the problem. I'm trying to design these legs too deliberately. And I think I'm getting a bit lost in those decisions. So just going to. And they don't have to be the same either. You know, this guy can be asymmetrical, whatever. I need something to happen here. Not sure what. Guess I could do something like this. A little bit of foreshortening, maybe some lumps and bumps. Lobsters just get rid of their stiff shell and are smooth and squishy again. Is that right? Yeah, they're always shedding. Oh yeah, and the other thing I think I learned the other day is lobsters apparently can grow like infinitely, or something, or potentially live forever. But just because that's how they I don't actually remember what it is that I learned, so I'm not gonna try to explain it. Um, but it was something like that. I don't know. Look it up. Something interesting about how they can just basically grow indefinitely, but they're limited by the size of their environment. Maybe. I don't know. Lobsters are cool though. Go check them out. You know, when I was a kid, I felt I still feel conflicted about um I first of all, I never go to a restaurant and order lobster because it's just not a good use of your money. You know, it's like I don't know, at 30, 40 bucks. I mean, I don't know, I'm in LA, so it's probably more than that. But and you dig into these things, and all the meat is just like in the claws and the tail. You get like a little pile of meat, you know, and so it's not efficient. It's not economical, and I just felt conflicted because I wanted when I was a kid I wanted to order the lobster from the restaurant because I just wanted to investigate it. I just wanted to look at it. I wanted to kind of like I just wanted to I thought they were so cool, and the easiest way to get a closer look was to order one. But then I just wouldn't really end up I'd like eat some of it, but then mostly I would just end up kind of investigating it and really marveling at the way it looked. So I think my mom eventually put the stop on that. Um, but yeah, pretty cool. Ooh, barnacles. That is a good idea. That's kind of what these kind of are starting to be. So yeah, uh, why not go all the way there? Oh, I wonder if I made a, just to digress here, I made a what was this for? Am I not the right folder? Well, I'm not, maybe I won't try to find it right now. But anyway, I'll find it later. I did make this in ZBrush. I made like a barnacle VDM, which is it's just like a 3D brush. You can like if I were sculpting this, and which I do want to do some 3D sculpting in one of these live streams, because it's really fun. I think it's fun to watch too. But it's basically like a 3D brush. You just kind of drag it onto an object, and it would push out like this three-dimensional shape. So I did make one that for some barnacles. Oh yeah, and I remember what I used it for. I used it for the whale guy, which again, do I want to try to find that right now? It's on my art station. Let me just find it there. So it is easier for me to find things on my own art station than it is to actually try to find the original file. Let's see if we can pull this up. Where are we? Let's go to, there it is, this guy. Get out of here. Hey, can I, okay, that doesn't work. Anyway, you can see this guy. I made a brush specifically for these little, because you can't see them well in these renders. It was pretty small. Maybe I didn't have to make a brush for it because they're so, ended up being so small. But if I zoom in, you can see here. There we go. Anyway, this is not a, yeah, you can see some of them over here. Anyway, this was a fun project. I could take Lobster Man into 3D, absolutely. That would be super fun to do like a whole, we could do a whole like game asset or VFX asset pipeline if you wanted, you know. We could take this from concept to I mean take a few weeks, but you know, I could walk you through every part of the process if anyone's interested in that. I find it fascinating. I really enjoy every single part of the 3D pipeline, the game development pipeline, because it, for me at least, like I love to draw, I love to do the raw creative output, but I also really enjoy more like kind of cerebral or mathematical or technical challenges and or you know, puzzle solving, problem solving, that kind of thing. And 3D has a lot of that kind of stuff, sometimes to a point where it's like overwhelming or discouraging. You know, if you find a problem that you really can't fix, it can like stop your project dead, which, you know, I feel like would be a risk if I did 3D in the live streams. But then you'd get to watch me work through a real 3D problem in real time. And maybe if that's something you're trying to get into yourself, you might learn something from that. But I'm pretty confident in my ability to get through every step in the process. At this point, I've made a lot of 3D characters, both for the game that I'm working on, and just for personal work and for classes and stuff. And so we could definitely go through that. We could take this into ZBrush and do some 3D sculpting, sculpt it out. Then we could export the high poly into Blender and do retopology into a low poly model. Then we take it into Substance Painter, and we would bake the high poly onto the low poly and then give it materials. And then we would export the materials, bring it back into Blender, and we could animate or pose it, or both. I will say I'm not at all confident in my animation skills. I've only really dabbled in it, but posing I can do pretty quickly and easily. Hey. Oh, thank you. Good to be here. And thanks for tuning in. What game are you working on? I am working on I work for a company called Unchained Entertainment. They're creating a fantasy MMO called Camelot Unchained that just went into early access. It's on Steam. You can check it out. I won't say too much more than that. I'll just leave it there. It's there. You can go. You can play it. I think it is generally acknowledged by both the team and the players that it needs a lot of work. And we are doing that work. So, but yeah, I won't say too much more about it. I have made some characters, some weapons, and have set dressed some of the environments. Contributed a lot of concept. Most of what I was doing for a large part of it was concept art. So designing a lot of the player models and stuff like that. And more recently, I've been trying to help maintain more of a cohesive art style and visual design with everything, to, let's say, varying degrees of success. But yeah, that's what I've been working on for my main job for the past couple of years. We were working on another side title for a little bit, which again I won't say too much about. Was also released and then unreleased, so I don't think you'll be able to find it. But a lot of my art that I made for that is still there, or still on my. I don't know if much of that is left on my portfolio, actually. Maybe it is. But yeah. So it's definitely been a learning experience. Very useful. I've learned a lot. Both about how I would do things and how I would not do things, if I had full creative control. But yeah, that's I think that's about that's the bullet points there. On my own time, what have I been working on? I've mostly been working on like personal stuff for my portfolio, which has been fun. And like I said, I took some classes last summer, which man, can't recommend enough. I'm still paying them off, but let me see. Just to keep plugging my my art station here. But I was working on a lot of 3D modeling stuff um, for those courses. Kind of like 3D concepting stuff too. I'm gonna show this. I love this. I'm sorry for people who are who are squeamish or who don't enjoy this kind of art. But like this is what I'm saying. This is the kind of stuff that for whatever reason it's just become super satisfying for me. So this is like a 3D concept. Basically, it's not an actual functioning game model, but this was 3D sculpted in ZBrush. These were some of my preliminary sketches. So this is the kind of stuff that has really just been tickling me lately, or just like weird creatures, just like 3D concepts, stuff like that. And just a little bit more on the weird side, not so much like high fantasy that I was focusing on more earlier. This is stuff. All this stuff is things I've done for the game. I just posted this the other day. These are some bandit models I did. I think these came out okay. These are some of the player models I did. Some golem characters and stuff like that. So I've been doing a lot more 3D, but I also did a lot of concept art for the game, for the environments, stuff like that. I've kind of just been bouncing around to whatever is needed, which is pretty fun in itself. And I'm really glad to have that flexibility to kind of mix things up. I think larger these are fairly small studios, so larger studios tend to be a bit more compartmentalized. But I've just been able to kind of bounce around a little bit to different areas, 3D concept, environment design, and that's been fun. Oh yeah, this was the other title, some of the stuff. I did really like the illustration I did for this. Not this one down here so much, but this was what they used for the Steam page, which I don't know, hasn't aged quite as well. But and then I recently did this other one for Camelot Unchained, which is also for the Steam page. What's on there? So this was pretty fun. This was a lot of work. I usually don't do illustrations that are this in depth anymore, but that was pretty fun. Anyway, back to Lobster Man. Wow, it's been a couple hours already. That's wild. I'm not feeling particularly fatigued here, so I mean, I might try to wrap it up relatively soon. But I'm gonna keep going. I at least want to get like a solid sketch here, and maybe do a little bit of value work, some edge reinforcement, that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's finish out these feet because I'm procrastinating on the feet. Yeah, some of these larger areas I think we can fill out with some kind of barnacle sort of things. Let's see. Class distraction. Yeah, it's okay. I like to show off some of the things I've been working on. I'm also kind of like tentatively exploring a larger personal project, which involves some. There's still a lot to do. I also won't say too much about that right now, but I will say I've been kind of learning to code a little bit, or to program, like very, very recently just started. And this has never been something that I ever thought I would be interested in, or ever really have. It's just always been like, that's what, I'm just not the type of person who would do that. But turns out it's really fun. And it makes sense. I always enjoyed math. I didn't really get too far into it because I was a terrible student in high school, especially, and to a slightly lesser degree in college. So I didn't get very far down any math track, but I really enjoyed algebra and geometry and just like doing math proofs and stuff like that, and logic too. I took logic in college as part of my philosophy degree. For those of you who don't know, yes, I majored in philosophy and art, double majored in philosophy and art. So yeah, I was just kind of looking through the list and decided to pick the two majors that would make me the least amount of money. It's kind of a personal challenge there. No, it was just what really fascinated me. I just kind of decided to use my time in higher education to explore things that were interesting to me, which I have no regrets there. I didn't need to get into this line of work. I could have just gone straight into doing. It probably would have been more prudent to go straight into trying to do concept art or something like that. But I didn't even know that existed at the time. I didn't even know you could get a job doing that. So I had to kind of find that out after I graduated. That, oh wow, people can get salaries and health insurance just by drawing silly like fantasy creatures. That's crazy, and I absolutely want to do that. Turns out it's pretty hard to do. Turns out it's extremely competitive, and even more so now. But you know, you can grind away at it for a long time, and maybe get your foot in the door on something. But anyway, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, programming. So I've been learning C sharp, which is, from my research, a little bit more accessible for beginners. And it's funny, I'm going through it and I'm seeing like there's actually logic, like the exact same principles that I was learning in logic, which were being used completely differently at the time. You know, it is kind of like a form of math, but it's like, and I loved it. I loved my logic class, but it was applied to things like arguments with premises and this kind of, you know, proving different or disproving different kind of points. And it's so funny to see the exact same, you know, truth tables and all this kind of stuff. And it's in coding for creating like a game or software. And it's like, I don't know, it's just bizarre. I'm like, huh, I had no idea this would actually have a practical application. So yeah, that's been kind of, but it's even more exciting because in addition to solving the logic puzzles and that kind of thing, and like trying to figure out how to phrase things so that the program functions effectively, you actually have a tangible result. It does something, which is really, so that kind of, you know, tickles the creative part of my brain. I'm like, oh, this is actually a tool for creation. You're using logic to create the framework for a creative endeavor. It's just really cool. And so I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna last. You know, sometimes I get really excited about something for a while, and then that's all I do, and then I kind of hard pivot to something else. So who knows? But that's been really cool, and something I never really envisioned getting into. And I think like the lesson I keep learning, again, to impart some wisdom here, because that's what this is all about. That's what these streams are about. No, but like as I get older, I'm realizing more and more how much I personally, and I think how a lot of people are limited by this like conception of yourself and what it is that you do, you know? And I think a lot of this stuff you learn very young, or like when you're in high school or something, you're just like, oh, I'm not the kind of person who does this, you know, like I'm not sporty. I you know, I don't like, for me, I still kind of believe that, like I don't, but I've never been particularly athletic, even though I maybe could be if I, you know, really want to. But that's the thing. I'm like, why do I think that? You know, I'm perfectly. It is that idea that prevents me from going out and doing those things. So I keep having to remind myself, like, why you just do it, you know? And if it's interesting, you can keep doing it. But like, you don't have to be like the kind of person who doesn't know programming just because you know, you've never perceived yourself in that way. So I try to, I try to tell people, I try to convince people of that about drawing and art and music and stuff all the time, like anything. Because like I am somebody who started a lot of those things early, specifically drawing. Music I actually started a little bit later, and haven't been doing quite so much. But and like I don't know, people get this idea that they're just like, oh, I'm not artsy, or like, oh, I'm not really the creative type, and I'm just like, just do it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you enjoy it, then keep doing it. If you don't, but like you're never gonna know until you try, And people are just, and I understand, it's hard to do something new and to be bad at it for a very long time. But like that's how anyone starts anything, is you're just bad at it for a long time, and you find something about it that's compelling to you, or you don't, and you try something else. But like I do feel like the number one obstacle that gets in the way of people becoming good at something like drawing or art or whatever it is just this conception that they have of themselves, and that they're just not the type of person who does those things. So yeah, I don't know, if you're watching and you're like, oh, I can never draw, then you know then try it. If you haven't, it's really fun, and like you're not going to be good at it. I at a time was not very good at it. Now I'm better, just because I did it for a long time. But and because I started young enough where I didn't even think about it. I was young enough where I wasn't thinking about, oh, I'm the type of person who is this, or I'm the type of person who is that. No, I was just like, oh well, I'm sad, and and I don't like school, and I'm just gonna draw instead. Um, and then I just kept doing that and never really questioned it. So yeah, I don't know, try it out, get into it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. um to answer my own hypothetical question, and where, if you want to draw, where would you start? I would start, I don't know, with what interests you. um if you stare at a blank page, does anything pop out, anything seem interesting? Or if you don't know, start with something that you find beautiful in the world. Or maybe not even beautiful, just like something in the world. Sometimes creating beautiful things can be a little bit harder and more discouraging. I feel like a lot of people, especially not necessarily new artists, but artists who are still like kind of finding their voice a little bit, they're just like, I want to draw pretty faces. And they just go right to that. And then they think they're terrible at drawing because they can't draw the most difficult thing there is to draw, which is usually attractive women. Um, uh, Attractive men can be a little bit easier, but and that, I mean, and attractive being a subjective operator there, of course, but conventionally so. That means that there are very smooth transitions. You don't have all of these gritty, granular things that I'm doing with Lobster Guy. There's that voice crack again. Um, and But yeah, if you're trying to create an attractive face, you have very little to work with. Like if you're drawing a female person, you've got the eyes, you have this like shadow under the nose, and then you have the mouth, and that's like basically all you can define, without starting to lose that quality. um you know and then you have the edge of the face, and that's it's pretty much what you have to work with. And if you don't get those elements exactly right, maybe the eyebrows too, but if you don't get those elements exactly in the right place, it's going to look weird and horrifying. So I don't recommend starting with that, or even really pursuing that, unless you have a very sturdy ego, and you really want to master that. But start with crunchy, crusty things. Old people, or old faces are great to draw, especially for. I mean, I still enjoy it to this day, but especially for beginners, because there's a lot of cracks and crevices and folds and things that you can work with. Um, but I don't know. Let's see. Observe you have smoothing at 0%. Is that your general setting, or is this just kind of for outlining and scribbling? That is my default setting on this brush. I generally don't have smoothing on unless I'm trying to do something like very smooth and machined, I guess. Like, if I'm trying to make some, even so, I generally don't keep it on. I think if I were trying to do like, I think we're for my ink brush, I have 14% smoothing on. Again, I think I stole this one from Hardy's brush pack, but I'll generally grab one and then tweak it a little bit for what I need. So this has like if I'm doing like a really, like if I were to take this and, do another layer, and then drop down the opacity, if I wanted a really polished line work, I would probably pop that smoothing back on a little bit, up to 14% or something, because I want really clean lines. But this isn't even really the type of design that I would want to have clean lines for. But that's an example of when I would use it a little bit. I feel like anything above 50% just gets really awkward. Like there's such a delay. And I would only use that for like very specific applications if I wanted something that was very like geometric, and I don't know. But yeah, yeah, in general I don't have it on. It's just kind of it's more of a stylistic choice, I guess. Some people really like having kind of refined, polished line work, which it's really good for that. But I've always kept things a little, a little rough and dirty. Again, speaking of speaking of Hardy, because I keep bringing him up because he's just, if you haven't checked out his channel on YouTube, please do, or his Discord, whatever. He's great dude, great guy, and one of the just one of the best artists out there right now, and really I feel like underappreciated. I mean, like I no, I mean he's been very successful, I think, but just like the amount of technical, like design chops and technical precision he has, like that is one, like I think I took one of his mentorship courses a while back, or the for what was it, the Concept Art Academy, which is again highly recommend, several years ago. And I learned so much because my default style just tends to be really kind of loose and unrefined, and he has this machine-like precision with everything he does, and he really takes advantage of a lot of Photoshop's tools for that, making like really clean lines and like cloning things to create repetition, especially with a lot of like the sci-fi and machine stuff. Like he's really, really precise with that. And when I was learning from him, I did learn to kind of like dial it in a little bit and be a lot cleaner. And even to do that, like what I was just showing there, where you take another pass at your drawing and you make really clean lines, and make it really presentational that way. But I also learned that, like, in part, that's just not quite my style as much. Like I think anytime I get too far into like hyper precision like that, I tend to lose a little bit of the quality and the looseness of the art that I think makes it work for me. I think like even in 3D, especially in 3D, actually, if you're a 3D artist or you work in 3D sculpting or you want to make models for games and stuff, like it's really hard for it's really hard to overcome the stiffness that comes with that, because maybe in the initial sculpting phase you can be a little loose and gestural about it, but like a lot of people get really stuck in the stiffness of the medium, because you can't be quite freeform about it, and you do have to be, you're kind of subject to some technical limitations, and it's tempting when you're working in 3D, especially if you're doing like hard surface stuff, to be really like clean and mechanical and machined, and that actually makes the art look worse because it just, like, if you ever see bad CGI, you know what I'm talking about, because like usually bad CGI, it's just too clean, you know. It's like it doesn't have that organic roughness and imprecision and imperfection that that things in reality have. And so when we see that, it's instantly suspicious and it's like unsettling. So yeah, keep an eye out for that stuff. Bad CGI. Just take a look at it. Generally, like, aside from, you know, having poor proportions or like terrible faces or whatever it is, you know, it's generally because it just looks very clean and digital, and and our brains flag that as suspicious. And especially now, especially like AI too, like it's always too clean. And again, not to get back in that territory. I'm not gonna bring us back into that whole. If you're just joining us late, I kind of went over some of that stuff a little bit earlier in the stream, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go too far into that. But yeah, I mean, that's part of what makes it really unnerving and unappealing, or in my opinion, kind of sickening, is just like that. Yeah, there's a lack of gritty groundedness, kind of imperfection to it. So yeah, I like to, you know, point being, I like to incorporate that into my style a little bit. I think we might want to have another claw here. I think to push him a little bit outside of conventional lobster territory. Let's give him a little third digit here. Does that work? Yeah, why not? Something like that. And I just saw this other side, and I thought this silhouette was kind of lacking, so I think that's what kind of brought it up for me. Another thing with creating good shapes and good designs, making sure there's clear overlap. You know, I don't want to have the edge of this kind of start to follow the edge of the leg. I want it to clearly intersect. And in addition to clearly intersecting, I'm gonna use value to separate it out a little bit more. I have a darker, thicker line here, lighter line back there, and that's gonna help separate them into different depths, make it look more 3D. I think maybe I went a little too heavy on the receding depth here, so I'm going to kind of punch up the outline a little bit. And I think I'm also going to maybe give the leg a little bit. I don't want it to go as far back as this arm, but I'm going to give it a little bit. I'm going to pump this down to 10% opacity with my eraser. And I'm just going to bump this back, especially I think towards the back of the leg where it's coming close to this leg. I want to show that this leg is a little bit closer to the camera. But it's all about how these things are interplaying with one another, interacting. I think, let's see here. Hi, do you have any plans? Hi, hello. Do you have any plans to do a 3D modeling stream eventually? Yes. I mean, you know, this is something I want to do for sure. I don't know when. Maybe next week. I don't know. I think I will do a stream next week. Can't think of anything else I need to be doing. But yeah, I really want to do a 3D. Like I was saying, we could even take this concept and go through the whole 3D pipeline if we wanted to. If that's something that interests you guys, next week we could go into ZBrush. Actually, probably next week I might do a color pass. And then depending upon how that goes, maybe the week after I could hop into ZBrush and we could start on a high poly sculpt. That would be cool. But yeah, I really love 3D, and I feel like historically this channel has been more 2D focused. I don't think I've really done. Might have done a couple Blender demos back when I absolutely had no idea how to use Blender. So I don't know. If you watch those, take them with a grain of salt because there's some bad practices there, but enough to get by. Enough to get by, I knew. But yeah, I would love to do some 3D modeling. I really enjoy it. I really, like I said, I enjoy every part of the pipeline, even like retopology, which I feel like before I got into 3D, everyone complained about retopology, and when I started doing it, I was like, what are you talking about? This is really fun. Why would you want a program to do this for you? It's like solving a little puzzle. I love it. I don't know, it might not be interesting for you guys to watch necessarily, so maybe I would do part of that off camera, but yeah, I would love to do some 3D stuff. Yeah, always keep my pencil there and try to show it in a subtle way. Yeah. Oh yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you resonate with this style. Yeah, I definitely I admire the hell out of his style. I wish I would love to be able to do that, but I'm also like, I don't know, they both have their time and place. And I also have borrowed a lot of my style from his work, especially his characters and faces, the way he approaches that. I've definitely been heavily influenced. But yeah, the more I practice, the more I learn about myself, the more I'm like, it's fun, man. That is the coolest thing about one of the coolest things I should say about practicing something for so long in a creative medium, is like, or I don't know, maybe it's just getting older. It could just be in all things that like you just start to learn more about what speaks to you and what you like, and like stop paying attention so much to what you perceive as being beautiful or desirable or whatever it is, or I don't know, there's just a narrowing down, and especially and a discovery too. Like I said, I'm discovering things, things like loving, kind of more horror oriented stuff, which I never really necessarily considered myself drawn to, as well as, just different media. I never expected to get into 3D. I never expected to start learning programming. But I just started, and I found something that felt like more niche to, what I find enjoyable. And so yeah, I don't know, it's just fun. It's a fun process of exploration, and especially even within one medium, you never know. You don't necessarily figure out what your style and preferences are until you spend a lot of time both working on the craft and also observing how other people craft things. Like there's so many artists that I love that have, where like I appreciate their product, and also like, and I recognize they do some things a lot better than I do, and they also make choices that I wouldn't make. And that's a really interesting thing to discover, where you're like, oh, when I was younger, I just thought this is like, you just think like, oh, this is the best artist, and I just want to be exactly like them. And if I could do what they do, I would be so happy. And then the more I've learned and developed my own technique and style, the more I can like look at those same things and like, yes, I really appreciate how they've done this. And also, if I were to do it, I would do it differently. And it's not better or worse necessarily. It's just like I wouldn't make that same choice with the way they do their line work. Like there's one artist that who, like, I feel like when you zoom out, the product is really beautiful, but then when you go in, a lot of the brushwork and line work is really sketchy and hairy, and like that's like too far in the other direction for me. Where I'm like, I would really tighten that up if I were doing it. But I also like really appreciate, that style, and like that it speaks more to them. I don't know. Kind of just rambling here, but let's see. I've been seeing you working in 3D in some of your past streams. I've been learning ever since. Awesome. What kind of programs are you getting into? Um, I am a huge fan of Blender. Um, I am constantly trying to convert my 3D colleagues into Blender because they're still using Maya. I think one of them's in 3ds Max. Um, and I like the more I learn. I'll be honest. I've dabbled in Maya a little bit. I've dabbled enough to know that I don't like it. And I think a lot of people who learned it and who are still in the industry are just like kind of clinging to it. And like I'm sure there's some things that it does better. Like I've heard that animating in Maya is better, but just in terms of what I've seen, and the more I learn about Blender, like it just is. I mean, it's free, which is crazy, and it does everything so well. Its rendering engines are just getting better and better. The tools are just, you can do anything you want. You can create any workflow you want. Um, I don't know. I'm a huge fan. I like, and you could do an entire um, game or VFX pipeline all in Blender. Um, like that movie that guy made with the cats. I think that was all done in Blender. I can't remember what it was called. Um, but it's really cool, and it's just getting better and better, and there's like less and less reason to use anything else, and it's still open source. Fingers crossed. I really hope. I think technically Autodesk still owns it, but they're not like monetizing it. I'm not sure how that works exactly, but it is open source, and hopefully it will remain that way indefinitely, because if they start charging for it, that would be a tragedy. But yeah, it's like made by creatives for creatives. There are always tools for what you need to do. You're not limited by a corporate agenda where they're trying to shove different features down your throat. And it's just great. So yeah, highly recommend Blender. I think, you know, I use ZBrush, Blender, and Substance Painter. Um, I think you could do the whole workflow in Blender if you wanted to, but I think ZBrush is better for organic sculpting, not hard surface sculpting. I think ZBrush's hard surface tools are garbage. And I really hate their navigation, but I've gotten used to it, so it's not as much of a complaint. But and ZBrush is on iPad now, which if you haven't tried that, it's really cool. I like using that. It feels a little bit more intuitive and like new 3D friendly. ZBrush on desktop is a little bit more, um, a little bit less beginner friendly, I think. The iPad version is very intuitive. But so yeah, I think ZBrush is better for sculpting tools generally, specifically organic sculpting. But I also haven't really tried a full sculpting workflow in Blender. And I've been really curious for a while to see like how far it's come and how, much of it you could do there. I see people on YouTube doing really incredible sculpts in Blender all the time, so I don't see why you couldn't. But ZBrush's Z-Remesh is one of the main benefits to ZBrush as far as I can tell. I haven't found anything in Blender that does Z-Remesh as well as ZBrush does, which is really useful. But everything else. But yeah, hard surface tools, Blender, Definitely. If you want to create hard surface models, uh, I think Blender's better than that than Maya is too. I think it's the best for that. I use Substance Painter as well um, for baking and materials. I think you can do baking in Blender. I think it's a little more complicated. It's not quite as intuitive and simplistic as it is in Substance. But you can do it. You can also bake in Marmoset, which also costs money. So, um, and then for materials, again, I think there are plugins for Blender that are pretty close to what Substance Painter has, but Substance Painter is still probably better. Anyway, that's my software overview. But yeah, it would be cool to walk through some of those things for people. I think even people who aren't into 3D or who aren't like trying to get into it, I think it's still interesting to watch. Or I hope it would be. But if it isn't, I don't know. I mean, we'll always, I'll always be doing 2D stuff as well, so you can always tune into one of those streams if that's what you prefer. I'm just gonna generally kind of follow what I find interesting. All right, so he has this like neck part, and I want to have this be like a really fleshy. Let's have one more plate in here. Let's do something like this. Actually, let's look at lobster plates. I keep forgetting to look at my references. I'll find something similar. This guy's funny. I don't know. Maybe this is deviated a little bit too far from lobster shape language, but I think I do want to have like some weird skin folds in here. Underneath the mandibles. Have this overlay. This was kind of making a tangent here, so I'm just going to make the executive decision to have it overlap a little bit. And this is asymmetrical too. That's fine. Nature is not always symmetrical. It's weird how often nature is symmetrical, actually. That's something that always has been baffling to me. I know there are like mechanical reasons for it, but I don't know, you would think that given the amount of variety and diversity in nature, especially even in plants, like plants don't tend to be particularly asymmetrical. I guess it's just advantageous or symmetrical. It's probably just advantageous for movement. It's the primary, but it's just, I don't know, it's just remarkable like that we found that one formula and we're just sticking with it. Symmetry in all moving things from now until the end of time. It's just crazy to me. I mean, I know there are counterexamples, but I mean, look at any of our references. It's symmetry, symmetry, symmetry. The crabs sometimes have one bigger claw. That's about it. It's crazy. But plants, not so much. What's going on? See if I can find some more asymmetry here. Nope, nope, nope. All symmetrical. Which is another interesting example of how nature doesn't always necessarily follow what I would or what I feel like are generally considered to be good design choices. Earlier I was saying like sometimes I look at something in nature, I'm like, that's not a very good design, visually at least. But yeah, nature is not um, always the, I don't know, the gold standard for aesthetics. It's definitely the main one for sure. I mean, where else are we going to get our ideas for beauty and interest? But eh, I don't know. I'm getting very philosophical here today, far more so than I anticipated doing. So thanks for bearing with me in my explorations of ideas. Oh yeah, more barnacles and more skin flaps. Yes. I want a big old turkey neck. Big old lobster man turkey neck. Just gonna add in a few little other bits, but then in between the bits, oh, lobsters also have this. They have this like fringy little hair. They're not quite spikes. If I can find a better example, I think they use them for swimming. Oh man, you can kind of see it. Uh, I should before my next stream. I'm gonna get more better lobster refs. You can see it here, these little hair things, and then you can see it here. Where's that? That's on the tail. And sometimes I feel like they have it. Yeah, they have it between their segments too. So maybe I'm gonna do a little of that. That could be an interesting like collar almost, like if you were wearing a coat, you would see that around the edge of the collar. I don't know. It could be a good way to break up the. Although it would be going the other direction, wouldn't it? Hmm. I don't know. Maybe out like this. We'll probably see it more on the back when we get to that. We'll probably do a back view. If we're going to do this in 3D, we'll need a back view. So maybe we'll do that next time, as well as maybe we can do a back view and some color. Um, if we really, the more we can get solved in 2D, the better. And that's if you are a concept artist, or aspiring to be a concept artist, and expecting that your products are going to be passed on to a 3D artist, or you yourself, as is rarely the case, but you know, as in my situation, I've done um, concepts all the way to 3D, which is generally not how it goes, but on a small team, you can do that, which is cool. Um, the more you can solve in the 2D medium, the better. The more design decisions you can make, the more specifics you can provide, different views, different turnarounds, breakouts, breakdowns, material callouts, all that kind of stuff. The more you can provide, the better. Because when you get into 3D, you have a whole other set of decisions to make. And you don't want to be making design decisions or detail decisions so much during that phase, because you're juggling a lot of other like technical aspects of it, and you're trying to judge the best approach, the best way to create a certain thing. And it's not good practice to try to design. I mean, you can, it's just going to hurt your quality if you try to design while you're creating in 3D. Unless you're like very well practiced in that. And I think even if you are, it's just better to design as much as possible in the 2D space, because especially with sketching, it's so much easier to plan and plot and experiment with pencil than it is if you're trying to manipulate like some clay in 3 dimensions. Like it's just really um, hard to keep that, like I said, keep that looseness and also that kind of forgiving nature of sketching when you're in 3D. So that's my recommendation, and that's what I think. If that's how we want to do this, um, then I think, yeah, we'll need a back view. We'll need more references, which I won't make you sit and watch while I try to find references, but I will share those. I mean, I might have enough already. You know, I have a bunch of these reference boards just kind of lying around. Um, but yeah, back view, turn around, color, material callouts, and more details. More details are better, you know, especially like stuff like this. I mean, it's good to have space, but you do want to have like some idea of how you're going to treat this. Like, is this very smooth? Are there some harder edges worked in here? I don't know. Let's say, is there a border to some of these things? I think generally there is when you look at the crustacean segments. Let's find a better example. Yeah, there's usually a bit of a kind of a raised border. There's a much better example. The other thing about this guy, the way I've chosen to design him, is if you compare this to this reference on the left, just by the way the lines are working, you can perceive a difference in scale. Now, I've provided no scale for this guy at all, but because of the complexity and the lack of smooth, kind of ballooned, that's not a word, balloonish surfaces, you can get a sense for the scale. Like this guy is not going to be sitting on the edge of your thumb. There's just no way. Because I'm using specific, and I didn't really intend to do this, but that's just kind of how it turned out. The way the shapes and designs are working here is really speaking to a specific scale, and that scale is probably human sized or above. You know, I think that's a reasonable assumption. I'm gonna go for this is probably a super big guy. You know, maybe that's another thing to provide in your 2D call out, but I'm gonna say he's like, let's call this human height. Somewhere around here. Of course, I don't know how to draw a person. There we go. I'll find something better for that. You don't need to go too hard on your human scale reference, but I think that's what I'm thinking for this guy. So, all right. I think this has really flown by. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and it seems like people are still just kind of trickling in here, and that makes sense because, like I said, I didn't really tell that many people I was doing this. But if you're in the Discord channel, keep an eye out for announcements in there. I'm going to aim to do this next weekend. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, just do that, and then I think you get a notification when I schedule a stream. I'm pretty sure about that. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there, but yeah, so you'll be able to check it out next time I do this. But yeah, I'm really glad that really glad to getting back into this and to be chatting with you guys and just sketching and rambling as I tend to do. I think we're in a pretty good spot with the front view. I don't see any space that's particularly lacking in terms of development. I think there's just like a lot of detail that we could continue to build out. But I don't think there's any part of this that I would consider like exceptionally underdeveloped. I'm seeing like this thing I kind of created here accidentally, this sort of smooth ballooned shape. We can mirror that over here. It kind of mirrors the cranial shape that I made up there earlier. And I would like to incorporate some more of those. I don't know where exactly. Maybe there's an opportunity here to do something like that. Just like these are by the way, these are spaces for the eye to rest. It's not just like it's not just, oh, this would be cool. This is actually something that is needed for a good design, which is an area where there's not really anything going on. There's a lot of small details in this creature, but we need spaces for the eye to, if this was just all details, it would become overwhelming, and the eye needs to settle and rest in spaces that are not super complicated. So I think that's cool. I think I like that. Maybe I'll add one over here too. I think that'll be maybe part of the refinement for this is not necessarily adding details, but finding areas to remove them or clarify them, you know? Or simplify. You know, there may be areas like this whole section that's kind of a boring rhythm. You know, we got like boom, 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 boom. Let's break that up a little bit. We can have some small over here. Maybe some little spiky things, you know, but I'm just gonna, I don't know, maybe that may not be the best way to do it, but I think just something to, just one little area of rest before we get back into all these crusty, crunchy details. And maybe we can push the silhouette more too, like having more. I've been pretty reserved with how I'm treating the silhouette, but there are ways we could really go crazy with it. Like I said, we could do the antenna. I don't know. You could take it or leave it. We could always make spikes bigger, you know, we can really push that if we want to. It kind of depends upon where we want to go stylistically and also how it reads from a distance. Like, let me just duplicate this a few times to darken it. That's another great reason to work with some transparency in your sketching is you can just easily duplicate it and it will kind of darken a lot of your lines. But I think we're in a good place for now. You know, we can always do a little shadow here to kind of ground him. You don't need much. And I didn't get into any shading or anything today. But well, let's see. If we go to 12, we got 10. I'm going to give it 10 more minutes. So let's use this 10 minutes. Man, I don't think I've ever done a 3-hour stream, have I? It is crazy. Well, I'm sure I have, but it's just usually I do not have the patience for it. But so we've got some grounding shadows there. What else? Let's kind of highlight some areas of ambient occlusion. There's a 3D term for you, which has very useful applications in 2D. In fact, when I first thought of drawing with ambient occlusion, it just kind of blew my mind um, how much of an impact that can have on your drawing. Especially because when I first started thinking about lighting in my drawings and paintings, I was obsessed with dynamic lighting. Because it looks so cool to me. If you can have something cast like a realistic shadow and have one part of an object cast in shadow and one part that is fully, illuminated in bright sunlight, and then you have bounce light and all this other crazy stuff. Like, I don't know, that was just really compelling to me, and I definitely abused it. I'm just gonna merge these down. Yeah, let's keep them a little dark. That's nice. Um, so, but since working in 3D, I've really grown to appreciate the value of ambient occlusion lighting, and especially the value it can have in drawing, which is, you find these ambient occlusion is basically the areas in between surfaces and little cracks and crevices that even if you have no specific direct light source, there are areas in between objects that will form these pockets of shadow just because they're so close to one another and light isn't able to really get in there. So once I learned to draw those spaces, I feel like it really, really elevated my drawing game. And it doesn't have to take that long, it can just be it can just be as simple as like, you know, taking what would be a line and turning it into like, here's our drawing line. It's a bad example. Here's our drawing line. And if that's how we're creating an edge, it's taking that and turning it into something more like this, where there is a hard edge, but you're giving it a little bit of directionality to it, a little bit of asymmetry to it. Basically taking one object and having it overlap. And I can use the eraser to then further reinforce this if I want to have this be a hard edge. Going with my eraser. So above it's a hard edge, and then below it's a soft edge. And it's more interesting, and it also helps to create depth. It helps to actually make it look a little bit more like a 3D render, or actual life, which is what 3D renders are based on. So I'm just going to do a little of that, especially around face and all this. There's going to be a lot of different pieces that are. And you have to be careful too that it doesn't just turn into kind of a muddy soup. You can use the eraser to help clean up other areas, because once you start adding in shading, you can easily like lose definition of some of your line work, I think. So sometimes you can go in with your eraser afterwards and just like help, or even a smudge tool if you want to get crazy with it, to help just kind of clarify some of these boundaries. I really like this furry, God, I don't even know what that is, but I want to use a ton of it. I can imagine on the back side, or even maybe down here, just including, I'm going to turn up, because I'm getting more detailed, this brush is starting to be a little bit too soft, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to get too far into that. But I can imagine doing that in between some other plated sections too, having a little bit of this furry, whatever that is. I'm going to have to look up what that is actually called and what its purpose is. Maybe it's for, on the tail, I assume it contributes to swimming, but maybe it's also like whiskers on a cat, where it's helping to sense the environment, or maybe like, because I know it's around the eyes too. Maybe it's to maybe it's like an eyelash. It's actually protecting the eyes from debris, or I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. But I do like it. I want to incorporate that into a lot of other areas because it helps create some relief um, to the constant like hard shell motif. Like I'm pretty much using the same type of material everywhere here. So if we can mix it up and create some, like if you look at any animal, even crustaceans, they're not all shell. They're not all, they have other types of things. I mean, they're mostly shell, but let's look at a lizard too. Like a lizard isn't all scales. Um, where's my lizard? Or at least it's not all the same type of scales. They're just like different areas that help to break things up. Um, eyes do a lot of that, but also, different claws and stuff. Just creating interruptions to what might be otherwise kind of a very monotonous pattern can sometimes help. You don't want to make too many different things. That's another big problem I see with artwork or beginning artwork or beginner artwork is or just designs generally is having too many different things. I feel like at my job I'm always the one who says less things, and I don't know. I'd like to think it's a legitimate I don't know, dare I say even objective uh kind of qualification for good design is um but I don't know, and maybe it's just a preference of mine. In any case, like sometimes I will see like, oh, this is just too many different things. You have you're too many different concepts being woven into something. You'll have a character that has, you know, uh, I don't know. I can't think of a good example. Usually it's just, or like too many different colors, or like don't have a strong hierarchy at least. Like having, especially, oh yeah, let's look at this example again, just in the last couple minutes here. Um, yeah, so this, and again, I'm not saying I did this perfectly, but this was a very good exercise in how do you have a lot of things without them competing with one another and without them creating visual dissonance? And that is a very difficult thing to do. And I think the newer you are to art, the harder it is to do. And this was a challenge for me, especially. And again, I'm not saying I nailed this perfectly there, but you know, it's not just putting everything in there. It's like you have to balance everything with one another. You have to pick certain points that are going to be stronger and more impactful, and you are going to have to create other points that are subordinate to those points. You have to create a hierarchy. And the more things you add into your image, the more carefully you have to arrange that hierarchy. This went through so many iterations of like balancing this, like, is this going to be my focal point? Or maybe is this the primary focal point? Or which is the secondary focal point? And like, how do I have these two characters together without them clashing with one another? Where can I reduce detail to emphasize detail in other places? Where can I leave space? If I want to shove like 100 characters on screen, where is there going to be space? Where is there going to be places for the eye to rest? Because we can't just fill the whole thing with characters that have the same level of detail. First of all, it would take me forever. And second of all, it would just look terrible. So yeah, the point being, simple is generally a safer bet. And the more things you add, the more carefully you have to pay attention to how they are ordered and how they are playing off of one another, and just like with big, medium, small, you want a hierarchy. You want something to take the primary focus, and you want to have other points that are sort of subordinate to that focus. So for this guy, the primary focus is like all of these plates, right? It's just all these giant, hard, chitinous masses. And then the supporting elements are, the wrinkly skin, the barnacles, the little fur things, the small spikes and horns, like those are all subordinate to the main feature. Whereas if I change the distribution of those elements, so it was like 50% fur and 50% shell, there's probably a way to do it, but it would be hard, and it would be probably not as interesting. All right. It's 12 o'clock for me. That'll be my closing thoughts for you. And yeah, I mean, thank you guys for joining. I actually did not expect to see this many people show up today. So I appreciate all of you who did. And I will be sure to get the word out if I'm doing this again. I'll throw it in the Discord. I'll probably schedule it. I'll schedule it in YouTube ahead of time, so you'll be able to see that notification. It'll probably be on a Sunday. It'll probably be next Sunday. 90% sure. I just have to double check my schedule again. Yeah, maybe we'll continue this guy. We'll do a back view, maybe some color. Maybe we'll even get into some 3D. Yeah, thank you all for joining me. This was really fun. And I hope to do it again soon. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.